Watercress by Andrea Wang, pictures by Jason Chin. We are in the old Pontiac, the red paint faded by years of glinting Ohio sun, pelting rain, and biting snow. The tops of the cornstalks make lines that zigzag across the horizon. Mom shouts, "Look!" and the car comes to an abrupt, jerking stop. Mom's eyes are as sharp as the tip of a dragon's claw. Dad's eyes grow wide. "Watercress!" they exclaim. Two voices, heavy with memories. From the depths of the trunk they unearth a brown paper bag, rusty scissors, and a longing for China. They haul us out of the back seat. We are told to untie our sneakers, peel off our socks, and roll up our jeans. We have to help them gather it. The water in the ditch is cold. It stings my ankles, and the mud squelches up between my toes. A car passes by, and I duck my head, hoping it's no one I know. My parents cut bunches of the small plant, long, stringy stems with leaves round as coins. My big brother yanks watercress up by the handful, roots dripping dirty water onto my shirt, and thrusts it close to my face. There are tiny snails clinging to the underside. I squirm away. The bag in my hands grows heavier and heavier with the weight of all the watercress. The paper is soaked, and I'm half afraid, half hopeful that the bottom will split, sending all the plants back down into the muck. Finally, we load everything, the soggy bag, my sopping shirt, our sodden selves, into the car and head home. Our original destination is long forgotten, a memory of something unfinished. On the dinner table that night is a dish of watercress, glistening with garlicky oil and freckled with sesame seeds. The mud and the snails are long gone, but I still don't want to eat it. Any of it. I only want to eat vegetables from the grocery store. Mom and Dad press me to try some. "It is fresh," Dad says. "It is free," Mom says. I shake my head. Free is bad. Free is hand-me-down clothes and roadside trash heap furniture, and now dinner from a ditch. Mom sighs and disappears into her room, returning with an old photo. "My family," she says, "from before." We stare. Mom never talks about her China family. She points to a small boy as thin as a stem of watercress. "My little brother, your uncle." We hold our breaths. Mom never told us what happened to him. "During the Great Famine," she says, "we ate anything we could find, but it was still not enough." I look from my uncle's hollow face to the watercress on the table, and I am ashamed of being ashamed of my family. I take a bite of the watercress, and it bites me back with its spicy, peppery taste. It is delicate and slightly bitter. like Mom's memories of home. Together, we eat it all and make a new memory of watercress. A note from the author. This story is about the power of memory, not just the beautiful memories like the ones my mother and father had about eating watercress in China, but also the difficult ones, the memories that are sometimes too painful to share. It starts with my own distressing memory of being made to pick watercress that was growing wild by the side of the road. As the child of Chinese immigrants, growing up in a small, mostly white town in Ohio, I was very aware of how different my family and I were from everyone else. It's hard to feel like you don't belong, and collecting food from a muddy roadside ditch just made that bad feeling more intense for me, something my very practical parents didn't understand. When I was young, my parents didn't talk about their memories of China, of growing up poor, losing siblings, and surviving war. I don't blame them. These are difficult topics to discuss with children. But it's important, too, for children to understand their family history. Perhaps if I had known about the hardships they had faced, I would have been more compassionate as a child. Maybe I would have felt more empathy and less anger, more pride in my heritage and less shame. Memories have the power to inform, to inspire, and to heal. This story is both an apology and a love letter to my parents. It's also an encouragement to all children who feel different and to families with difficult pasts. Share your memories. Tell your stories. They are essential. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this story. And now I'm going to pass it over to Jason. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jason Chin. I'm the illustrator of Watercress. I first read Watercress when my editor sent me Andrea's manuscript. All I received were the words. This is what it looked like. And there were no notes to tell me what to illustrate or how to illustrate the book. I just had Andrea's beautiful text. When I read the text, I started to imagine different characters, or the different characters, their emotions, and the setting. And I started drawing pictures. So here's one of the first pictures that I drew, or some of the first pictures. You can see I have a sketchbook, and I tried drawing a car and some people. Some of it's in pencil, some of it's in ink. And I started to explore different images for the characters, different ways of drawing, and started to imagine who they were and how they were feeling. Now, as I was drawing, I realized I was going to have to learn some things about this setting. I was going to have to learn some things about the time frame. It takes place in the 1970s, and the flashbacks take place in China in around 1960. So there were some things I was going to have to learn if I was going to do a good job illustrating this book. So I did research. For example, I got myself a toy car so I could learn what the Pontiac looked like. And this car is pretty great because the doors open and a trunk opens. And these were things I needed to learn about in order to do the illustrations for the book. Another thing I had to learn to illustrate was corn. Now, I live in Vermont, and there's a lot of corn that's grown in Vermont. I'm very familiar with it. There are a lot of cornfields near my house, in fact. So I know kind of what corn looks like, or I knew kind of what corn looked like. But I didn't really know. I had never really studied it or paid close attention to it. So I brought my paintbrushes and an easel out to a cornfield near my house and started painting. I started studying the corn in order to learn what it looked like. And as I was doing that, it occurred to me that corn and bamboo are very similar plants. They're also iconic plants for China and America. So I thought I could use these plants in the book as a motif, as representative of their two cultures. So I started playing with that in the illustrations. Now that got me thinking about how Chinese painters paint bamboo. And so I started looking at Chinese bamboo paintings and other Chinese art, such as Chinese landscape paintings. And I started to wonder how I could maybe use some of the techniques that I found in those paintings and bring them into my art for the book. One of the things I noticed about Chinese bamboo paintings is that the painters use a single stroke to paint each leaf in the bamboo. And since corn has similar shaped leaves to bamboo, they're a lot bigger, but they have a similar shape, I thought maybe I could use that technique in the book to paint the corn and kind of blend the cultures there in the illustrations. I also thought about how Chinese painters use clouds and soft washes to depict mountains in landscapes. And that shows the mountains far away and shrouded in mist, and it looks kind of dreamlike to me. And since this book has a lot of memories in it, I thought maybe I could use those techniques to depict the landscape in Ohio and give it kind of a dreamlike effect that might symbolize memory. Now, those are two important things that I did in the illustrations for the book. And now I'm going to do a painting demo, and you can see how it all came together. So for this demo, I'm going to do a watercolor painting, and I have a couple of different tools I'm going to use. I have a pencil, basic pencil. I have a watercolor brush. This is a Western style watercolor brush. And I have a Chinese style watercolor brush. So I'm going to start by squeezing out some paint here. I'm putting out 4 colors here, but this painting will be mostly done in cerulean blue and yellow ochre. So I'm going to start this painting by doing a drawing. I'm going to draw in some corn, and I will outline each of the leaves and indicate where the stalk will be. For one stalk of corn, this one will be in the foreground, and then I will put in some marks to indicate where the corn in the background will be. We'll speed up the video so that the drawing goes a little faster for you. Now the drawing is done, and it's time to move on to something called a water mask. What I'm doing is getting the paper wet. I'm getting it wet everywhere except that main stalk of corn. I'm keeping those leaves dry. So I'm getting the paper wet with clean, clear water. And once it's wet, it'll be time to add some color. So I'm going to begin by adding some warm colors, some brown, orange, some yellow. You can see as the paint falls into that wet paper, it bleeds and creates soft edges. You can also see that as it bleeds into the wet paper, it stays away from the dry areas, the leaves that I left dry. So that's how the water mask works and how I get soft edges in the painting. Now it's time to let the painting dry. I've let the painting sit for a few hours, and now the paper is dry, and I can add color without the paint bleeding into the wet paper. Now you can see the marks that I'm making have hard edges, and I'm painting the silhouette of a stalk of corn and its leaves. Each leaf is made with a single stroke of the brush, like Chinese bamboo paintings. I'm using a darker green here, which makes this corn stalk look like it's in front of the background that I painted earlier. Now I think we should speed things up again. These corn stalks are in the middle ground of the painting. That means they are in front of the background and behind the main corn stalk that's going to be in the foreground. They're all painted in silhouette, and I want to add details, but not too many, because these ones aren't the main focus of the painting. I'm working my way forward in space. That means that I painted the background first, then the middle, and here I'm painting a cornstalk that's in the front of that middle ground. Still not the closest one to us, but it's in front of the ones that I just painted. And you can see I'm using a darker green. That'll make it look closer to us. And this is also a technique used in Chinese bamboo painting. Now I'm adding one more cornstalk to the background. And after this one, I'll move to the main cornstalk in the foreground. I'm thinking a little differently when I paint the corn in the foreground. I'm thinking about the light that's falling on the leaves. The dark green that I'm putting in shows where the shadows are. Painting this way gives the corn volume or shape. It makes it look three-dimensional, as opposed to the corn in the background, which is done in silhouette and looks rather flat. This method of painting the form and the light is more common in Western painting. And so this is how I combine Chinese painting and style and Western style in my illustrations for watercress. To finish the painting, I'm going to switch brushes and put in the last details with this smaller Western style brush. And here's the final painting. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it.